Hello everyone, welcome to English 808 for Technical and Vocational Education. Today's lesson is Unit 10, Embedded Questions. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to, number one, identify the use of embedded questions. So we will learn how to use embedded questions. Number two, identify direct and embedded questions formats. So we will look at two different types of questions and how to write them or form them. And lastly, we're going to write embedded questions to have more practice. Let's start with these two questions. So we have direct question and embedded questions. For the direct question, what are my mistakes? For the embedded question, can you tell me what my mistakes are? So what do we notice here? In direct questions, then we have what are my mistakes, which is the second, are is the second word in this question. As for embedded question, then are comes at last. But again, what do we mean by that? From the example before, which question is more polite to ask your teacher? Is it, what are my mistakes? Or, can you tell me what my mistakes are? So which one seems more polite and more professional when you talk to a teacher? Yes, so we use embedded questions. Can you tell me what my mistakes are to politely ask someone? So embedded questions are generally more polite than direct questions. So this example here is more polite than what are my mistakes? Embedded questions are usually questions included within another question or statement. So as we can see here, what are my mistakes? Mistakes is one sentence. As for the embedded question, then it is part of two sentences. Can you tell me? And what my mistakes are. So embedded questions are questions included within each other. So two questions together. We have examples here of WH questions, and we're going to read the direct and embedded questions and see what is the difference between them. So what is the direct question, WH question, and what is embedded WH question? I will give you 1 minute to read it, and then we're going to discuss it. Let's talk about it more. So for embedded questions, we use an introductory phrase or clause. As we can see here in the first sentence, what time is the meeting? In the embedded question, then we put another phrase which is, can you tell me what the time is? So we have added another clause or phrase. Let's look at another example. When did you start? How are we going to write the embedded question? We are also going to add an introductory phrase or clause, which is, I'd like to know when. So always for WH questions, then you use an introductory phrase or clause to form or to write embedded questions. Now let's look at another type of questions. In here we have yes or no questions. And again, I will give you 1 minute to read the questions and try to find what the difference is between them. So how do we write yes or no questions, and how do we write embedded questions? You have 1 minute to read and find the differences. All right, let's discuss it together. For embedded questions, we also use an introductory clause. So, do I need a? I'm going to add, I wonder if I need a. So the introductory phrase or clause is I wonder if. Let's look at another example to understand it even more. Does the plane leave? We need to add another phrase or clause to make or form an embedded question. So we will say, I'm not sure whether the plane leaves. So these are yes or no questions. Be careful. Some embedded questions are structured like statements. So they are not questions, meaning you don't add a question mark at the end, but rather you put a full stop. Now we've looked at the meaning of direct questions and embedded questions. We have looked at different types of questions, the WH questions and the yes or no questions. Let's do more practice to understand it more. In here you have 3 sentences. You're going to put the words in the correct order to make embedded questions. So these words here are not in order. Put them in the right order to make an embedded question. You have 2 minutes to do this exercise. Let's see if your answers are correct. Number 1, I don't know how much I got in the test. Number 2, do you know what the professor said? Number 3, I'd like to know if you have taken any school assignments so far. I have another exercise for you to practice embedded questions. So here we're going to rewrite each direct questions as embedded questions. So number 1, 2, and 3 are direct questions. You are going to use the phrases and the clauses to write embedded questions. And you have the phrases and the clauses in the brackets. So you must use can you tell me, the phrase or the clause can you tell me, to write embedded question. For this exercise, I will give you 3 minutes and then I will show you the model answer.